Welcome to the ECU Tuner Dyno room. Today, we'll explore how the new knock sensor simulation works and, most importantly, how to prevent knock. Not only will we show how to detect knock, but we'll also go over how to properly set up your ECU to detect and eliminate it. The Flex Fuel menu opens, and a fuel station with selectable fuel types appears. Here, you can choose between different fuel types. Let's select 100-octane fuel. While it offers better resistance to detonation compared to 95-octane, it's not as superior in anti-knock properties as the next option, E85. For proper knock detection, it's crucial to set the correct voltage threshold for the knock sensor. The ECU tuner allows dynamic adjustments to these values, ensuring that the ECU reacts to potential knocks in time. If a knock signal is detected, the ECU will automatically enrich the AFR and retard the timing, eliminating the risk of engine damage. Next, we'll fine-tune a few details, like adjusting the fuel pressure, because the AFR is too rich with these injectors, and the maps aren't tuned for this setup. It's looking better at higher RPM now, and we can work with these values so we can head to the dyno. We'll lock the front axle to prevent the car from hopping side to side or drifting, and then we'll get started. We also need to set the dyno preload value to achieve consistent load at full throttle across different RPM ranges. Today, we'll work with a value of 60, which is ideal for fourth gear, and around 6,000 RPM, where we'll demonstrate how the knock sensors work. For better customization of the dyno room, we also have the dyno room controller. This controller can adjust the intensity and color of the side lights, top lights, logo, and display. We'll open the data logger to see a new graph displaying values from the knock sensor, which is essentially a microphone attached to the engine. When the engine is running correctly, these values are low and stable. If there's an issue with combustion, like pinging or knock, the graph will show it, and we'll know we need to intervene to avoid engine damage. I'll show you how the voltage from the knock sensor increases with engine RPM. Based on what we're seeing, it's about 0.1 volts for every 1,000 RPM. However, it's important to note that each engine will have its own engine noise, so these values may vary between different cars. We can see that at 6,500 RPM under full load, the engine is relatively quiet, with no signs of detonation. Now, let's gradually advance the ignition timing and observe how the voltage from the knock sensor increases to 2 to 3 volts, whereas it was around 1 volt before. It's important to remember that detonation resistance generally decreases with higher boost and RPM, and of course, every engine with a different ECU setup will have its own resistance to detonation. However, a general rule in ECU Tuner is that values below 1.5 volts plus engine noise at higher RPMs are still safe before detonation. Anything above that could lead to gradual engine damage or even seizing, which we'll demonstrate now. Let's gradually advance the timing until we cause serious engine damage. This can be identified either by the distinctive knocking sound or, if we really overdo it and the engine keeps detonating for too long, it will seize completely. In that case, you'd normally have to repair or replace the engine. But in our case, we'll just press the reset damage button and pretend nothing ever happened. Now we'll demonstrate how the engine sounds when it's not fully seized, but has suffered serious damage from detonation, resulting in a noticeable loss of power. Here's another example of what to watch out for. When the engine seizes, the driven axle locks up, causing the vehicle to skid and potentially crash. Of course, the clutch can release the lockup. All right, enough of destroying engines. Let's focus now on how the ECU tuner can handle knock. In real time, several times per second, it monitors and adjusts settings to not only protect the engine from damage, but also deliver the highest possible performance. Keep in mind that knock detection is just a failsafe for critical situations. The best approach is to avoid knock altogether by properly setting a safe AFR, ignition timing, and boost across the entire RPM range. However, if that's not possible, we have the knock menu. So let's open it and load the engine on the dyno. We can see that the knock sensor voltage is relatively stable. These are values we can safely work with. I've now enabled the knock menu and turned on the on button in the knock settings. This means the ECU no longer just reads the knock signal, but actively responds based on the first map, considering RPM and configured knock threshold values. It automatically enriches the fuel mixture, retards ignition timing, and reduces boost, only when the electronic wastegate is active. You can see ECU interventions via a new icon in the status bar, which flashes red with every adjustment, and in the log, a new entry ECU state. Knock has been added, so you can analyze when the ECU intervened against knocking. In the knock menu, we also have the restore time setting, adjustable from 0 to 2000 milliseconds. This time determines how long after the ECU responds to knock it will continue enriching the fuel mixture, retarding ignition timing, or reducing boost. If you want to achieve the highest performance, you should play around with the knock threshold map and enrichment settings. After all, as they say, the engine runs best just before knocking. Thanks for watching, guys. The new alpha version is available for download on our Patreon. Have fun and enjoy.